The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Jakral of the Vexorian Empire slammed 3 of his appendages against the crystalline podium. His bioluminescent skin pulsed angry crimson, a display meant to intimidate the newest species to join the interstellar community. The humans will comply with standard mining protocols on Kepler 442b, or they will face immediate sanctions, Jakral declared, his translator rendering his clicking speech into sterile galactic standard. Commander Sarah Chen sat motionless in the human delegation's seat, her fingers steepled beneath her chin. Around her, representatives from 47 different species watched with varying degrees of interest. Most had seen this before. The Vexorians were notorious for bullying newer council members, and humanity had only been starfaring for 30 standard years. Ambassador Jakral, Sarah said softly, we've explained our position. The mining methods you're demanding would destabilize the planet's core within 2 cycles. The colony there has 8,000 inhabitants. Acceptable losses for commercial efficiency, Jakral retorted. This is how galactic economics functions, human. Perhaps your species should have stayed in your little corner of space if you cannot handle. I'm starting to get a bit annoyed, Sarah interrupted, her voice still calm. The chamber's atmosphere shifted instantly. Kuthra, the mantis-like delegate from Chiton Prime, stood abruptly, her compound eyes fixed on the exits. Beside her, the gelatinous Ulothian representative began rapidly flowing toward the chamber doors. Jakral blinked his 6 eyes in confusion. What? Ambassador Jakral? Kithra's voice came out high-pitched, almost panicked. I strongly advise you to reconsider your position. Immediately. Are you afraid of this? This hairless biped? Jakral's skin flashed with contemptuous yellow patterns. They've been in space for barely 3 decades. They have no significant military. You absolute fool, wheezed Gronthar, the elderly Thurian observer who'd been on the council for 3 centuries. His gravitational manipulation field flickered with agitation. You weren't there during the Kreshna incident. Sarah remained perfectly still, but something in her brown eyes had changed. The pleasant diplomatic mask had thinned, just slightly. Ambassador, we really should table this discussion for another time. I will not be dictated to by, Jakral began. Now I'm actually getting annoyed, Sarah said. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates scrambled for exits. Kuthra simply teleported out with a sharp crack of displaced air. The Ulothian flowed through a ventilation shaft. Even the stoic Granthians, whose species had fought wars lasting millennia, suddenly remembered urgent appointments elsewhere. Within 20 seconds, only 3 beings remained. Jakral, frozen in confusion, Sarah, who hadn't moved, and old Gronthar, who positioned himself behind a reinforced pillar. What is the meaning of this cowardice? Jakral demanded, his voice echoing in the empty chamber. Gronthar's deep rumble came from behind his shelter. They call it human patience, Ambassador, and you just exhausted it. Sarah stood slowly. She was small by galactic standards, barely 1.7 meters tall, no natural armor, no venom, no telepathy. But she walked toward Jakral with the measured pace of a predator that had already decided the hunt was over. Do you know what humans are, Ambassador? Sarah's voice had dropped to conversational tones which somehow made it worse. We're the species that domesticated wolves by being more stubborn than they were. We're the species that looked at every poisonous plant on our world and kept eating them until we figured out which parts would kill us and which parts were just spicy. Jakral backed away, his bioluminescence flickering uncertainly. We walked out of Africa with nothing but rocks and attitude, Sarah continued. We crossed oceans on wooden planks because we were curious what was on the other side. We split, the atom, went to our moon using computers less powerful than your translator, and turned Mars into a garden because someone said it couldn't be done. She stopped directly in front of the Vexorian ambassador, tilting her head slightly. And do you know what the really terrifying part is? We do almost all of that while we're being nice, while we're playing by the rules, while we're being diplomatic and patient and giving you every possible chance to do the right thing. Jakral's appendages trembled. He'd finally noticed that Sarah's hands, those delicate 5-fingered manipulators, had curled into fists, not threatening him directly, just Ready. The Krishna found out what happens when humans stop being nice. Granthar called from his hiding spot. An entire battle fleet, Ambassador. They attacked a human colony ship, killed 3,000 civilians, including children. Sarah's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. The humans asked them to stop, Granthar continued. Politely, 3 times. The Krishna laughed and prepared to attack another colony, so the humans stopped asking. The Krishna homeworld is still habitable, Sarah said quietly. We made sure of that. But there are no Krishna warships anymore, anywhere, in the entire galaxy. We found every single one. It took us 4 years. Chakral's skin had gone pale white, the Vexorian color of fear. So here's what's going to happen, Sarah said, her voice almost gentle. You're going to go back to your empire. You're going to tell them that the mining operation on Kepler 442b will use human-approved methods, or it won't happen at all. And you're going to be very, very grateful that I'm only actually annoyed and not anything worse. She turned and walked toward the exit, pausing at the doorway. Oh, an ambassador? If I get to genuinely upset, they won't find enough of your fleet to fill a cargo container. Have a pleasant cycle. After she left, Granthar emerged from behind his pillar. He found Chakral still standing frozen, his appendages quivering. Wisdom from an old observer, Ambassador, Granthar said kindly. When a human uses emotional qualifiers, a bit annoyed, slightly upset, mildly irritated, what they're actually doing is giving you a countdown. They're warning you in the politest possible way that their patience has limits. But she seemed so calm, Chakral whispered. That's the warning, Granthar said. Humans don't roar before they attack. They get quiet. They get precise. They get focused. He floated toward the exit, then looked back. The smart species learned this early. The Krishna learned it too late. I suggest the Vexorians don't make the same mistake. Chakral stood alone in the empty council chamber for a long time. Finally, his skin flickered to diplomatic blue and he activated his communicator. This is Ambassador Chakral. Abort the Kepler 442b operation. All of it. And get me the xenopsychology reports on humans. All of them. He'd learned what the rest of the galaxy already knew. When a human says they're getting annoyed, you don't debate. You don't posture. You don't test them. You run. Because somewhere in humanity's past, in caves and savannas and frozen wastes, they'd learned that the scariest predators don't warn you they're hunting. They just patiently wait for you to give them a reason to stop being nice.